Namaskaram, Swamiji. Namaskaram to all of you friends. Welcome. It's amazing how almost 6 weeks have melted away as if in a trice. It is as if we were in some kind of a time warp or trance with Swamiji's classes. But there are contented sighs because we have indeed become a little wiser, more tolerant and tolerable. That is an achievement, isn't it? But I must in all honesty say that the earlier part of verse 66, enlightening though it was, had us climbing the wall, right? It was by no means smooth sailing in that our own follies created many obstacles. But through every one of our anxieties to grab all of it in a flash, through the whirlpool of our doubts and uncertainties, and through our swim against the currents when the going got technical, Sri Swamiji steered us with great patience and guided us towards the understanding of the vision of Bhagavad Gita. Please, friends, show your appreciation and gratitude to Swamiji. Swamiji referred to this verse as a powerful one of Sharanagati. Quote, Sharanagati, surrender, is a vision. In it, you discover God as love in your heart in the form of Atma. In mere love, there is duality, but in surrender, life itself becomes an expression of that love, which is Ishvara. An existent event is part of the whole. It is not in isolation. Accepting it as the will of Ishvara is Sharanagati, unquote. Swamiji goes on to say that truth is but one. You realize it by looking within. The renunciation is in seeing the false as false and truth as truth. It is an arduous process demanding clarity of perception. Mental energy should be one great longing for the truth, unquote. Now, you are about to witness a Samvada based on the 66th verse between the Advaitins and the Mimamsakas. The Advaitins say knowledge alone leads to liberation. The Mimamsakas Paksha demonstrates that their actions are for heaven and therefore their lives are tied with false values. The scholarly panel will enlighten us on the topic of action and knowledge. Now, let us welcome the participants who have gathered here from different parts of India. The affluence in the Mimamsakas attire is indicative of their priorities in life. Being karma-oriented, naturally they partake of the results of actions which makes them bhoktas. For all that, they are highly knowledgeable. Curtains, please.
You're absolutely right. We have 3 really challenging questions this time. We have to make sure that these Advaitis do not wriggle out of it this time.
Yeah, we need
Let's
to
go
make sure
get 'em.
they listen.
The Advaitins. While the participants get ready, our dear Shuddhatma Ji is here with a few words to offer.
Respected Swamiji and friends, good evening. Swamini Ji has already narrated to you what you're going to watch. So this is the Purvapaksha Siddhanta Samvada. All of you are students of Vedanta. I'm sure you are familiar with 4 words. One is Samvada, Vada, Jalpa and Vitanda. In this context, we are going to watch what Samvada is. The definition of Samvada is noblest type of dialogue. They are not going to fight between ardent seeker of truth and enlightened teacher. This is the Samvada, and the debate is based on ongoing 6-week course classes conducted by Sri Swami Tattvavidananda Ji. 9 of the students attending the course will present the dialogue between the Siddhantins and Mimamsakas in Bhagavad Gita chapter 18 verse 66. All of you know that Madhusudana Saraswati wrote a book called Vedanta Kalpa Latika. So a lot of discussion is there if you would like to know more about this after the show. Thank you and enjoy the show, and I'm sure it will be great success. Thank you very much.
Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam.
Now, to set the stage for what is in store on stage, let us look at a few statements of Sri Krishna. In chapter 10, verse 10, Bhagavan says, "To them who are ever devoted and worship me and love me, I grant them possession of wisdom by which they reach me." And in verse 11, "Out of compassion to them alone, I, residing in their hearts, destroy the ignorance with the luminous lamp of knowledge." And in this, the 66th verse, Bhagavan says, "Abandoning all forms of rights and duties, take refuge in me alone. I shall free you from all sins." The Mimamsakas have a few things to say about these statements, and so have challenged the Advaitins once again. The failures they have encountered time and time again in their Samvadas have not deterred them in any way. Swamiji, may we please start?
Pranams, respected Acharya Ji. We have a doubt. All through the Bhagavad Gita, knowledge and action are given utmost importance. Finally, what has been established as the supreme means to liberation? Is it knowledge or action or both?
Namaste Bhagavati. It is natural for the doubt you mentioned to arise, because there are passages like, "By realizing which one attains immortality, and having known me in truth, he enters into me immediately after that knowledge." These kind of passages point to the attainment of liberation through knowledge.
Acharya Ji, you are talking about knowledge only. What about action and combination of action and knowledge?
Yes, there are also passages that talk about action, as well as action and knowledge combined. They say you have connectedness with action alone, you undertake action itself, and so on. They indicate that actions have to be undertaken as a matter of compulsory duty. Since knowledge and action are thus enjoined as duties, therefore the doubt may arise whether individually or as a combination of both, they may become the cause of liberation.
Revered Acharya ji, suppose we enter into this inquiry. What would be the result of such an inquiry? What kind of knowledge would we be gaining? Assuming we gain that knowledge, what would be its result and usefulness? How would it be different from the result of performing actions? Please kindly enlighten us.
Panditji Pranam. The result of this inquiry will indeed be ascertainment of one. Which of the three? Is it jnana? Is it karma? Or is it a samuchaya? Knowledge accompanied by action together will bring the highest good. Hence, this has to be investigated more extensively. Truth is always one, essentially. It is simple. This knowledge of the self is exclusively the cause of the highest good. With this knowledge, whatever idea of division that exists has to be negated. With inquiry, we have to arrive at this oneness. All humanity is one. This is the starting point of Vedanta. Nature is one. Prakriti is one. And plurality just appears in it. The idea of division has to be negated, culminating into the goal, which is one. This is liberation. The knowledge that my essential nature is a awareful being, shining as the knowing, and in which there is not even an iota of doing. This notion, the notion that action, agent, result, etc. are all different, is because of the ignorance of the self. It is with ignorance that we nurture the sense of division, and that I have to perform action.
Acharya ji, doesn't the combination of action and knowledge have a role to play in the knowledge of the self? Actions are an integral part of a person's life. Surely they must produce meaningful results.
No, Panditji. In fact, both action and combination of action and knowledge are refuted by showing that the highest good cannot be attained through mere actions, nor by a combination of knowledge and action. Besides, since liberation is not a product, it merely uncovers the true self, which is timeless. Therefore, it is illogical that it should have action as its means. Indeed, an eternal entity cannot be produced by either action or combination of action and knowledge. For example, there is effort involved in making curds out of milk. You have to boil the milk, wait for it to cool, and add culture to it and continue the further process. This is time-bound. Within the example, the milk is given. It is timeless, it is not produced.
Bhagavan, if what you say is correct, then can't we infer that even exclusive knowledge is purposeless? You say liberation is not a product. That is, it's not produced by any effort. And it helps to realize what is. If it is nitya, or timelessly or eternally is, then, and also you say that it is also a given fact, then why seek knowledge at all? What can knowledge accomplish that action cannot? The entire universe is in constant flux. It's jagat. It's moving. It's motion everywhere. Can there be life without movement? No. Nothing can move without action. How can you dismiss action altogether as merely compulsory duty?
Not so, esteemed Panditji. Even though the self timelessly is, there is ignorance of this fact. Thus, knowledge has a purpose. Let us examine the example of rope and snake. Now, if it is a real snake, there's no problem. You know what to do. But if you mistake a rope for a snake, then you face the problem of fear due to ignorance. This fear is eliminated when the light is flashed on the object, the rope, and ignorance is removed. The light merges with the rope, so to speak, and the vikalpa, or wrong notion, is dispelled. Please understand, Panditji, The rope remains as rope. No change occurs in it. The sole result of the light is the immediate knowledge that a rope is present and not a snake. Thus, the palam, or result of the knowledge, is immediate liberation from the fear of snake. Here and now, this occurs. Similarly, with reference to the self, jnana, ajnana, or ignorance, lies an association of the I-ness with that which is not I. Now, knowledge removes this misconception, not by performing any action on what is there, but by removing the confusion about what it is. Knowledge being the destroyer of the darkness of ignorance, it liberates immediately, just as light destroys the darkness immediately and illumines what is there. Because this is a directly experienced result, there is no possibility of engaging in any other action. Steadfastness in knowledge, combined with action as a means to moksha, is not logical.
No, Acharya-ji. We cannot agree with that. Consider this. Say, for instance, knowledge is essential to perform Vedic rituals. Pandits devote many years to gain this knowledge. But then again, there are various actions also involved while reciting mantras and offering oblations unto the fire and so on. Therefore, actions can be combined with knowledge.
No, Bhagavati. It is unreasonable that with knowledge of the self, which results in liberation, there can remain hankering for results of action. Take this scenario, for example. When someone is engaged in actions aimed at winning a kingdom, a king, can there be a possibility of him longing for a small piece of land? Once you own the Lake Superior, why would you go after a small well or a small pond? Hence, actions does not comprise the means to the highest good, nor do knowledge and action in combination.
Also, Panditaji, knowledge which has liberation as its results have no dependence on action, because knowledge is the remover of ignorance. It is opposed to action, which is likened to darkness. And since darkness cannot be the dispeller of darkness, therefore knowledge alone is the means to the highest goal.
Acharya-ji, I beg to differ. Your view that liberation is attainable through knowledge alone is wrong. You see, it is like this. Nitya karmas are prescribed by the Vedas. It says that if you do not perform nitya karma, you will attract papa or pratyavaya dosha. For example, bathing is a nitya karma. By not doing that, you will be unclean and perhaps unhappy also. This is pratyavaya. Therefore, the freedom you talk about, which is eternal, will not happen. And won't this state of affairs make it impossible for one to attain liberation? Therefore, knowledge should associate with nitya karma.
Panditji, papa is esoteric. Religious understanding is that it is not visible. Gahana karmano gati. Forgetting the self is the real papa, which makes us suffer. Let me quote you from Kenopanishad. Iha ched vedit atha satyamasti, na chediha vedin mahati vinashti. Meaning that it is here that you should know. And if you know, it's good. But if you do not, right, then you have lost everything. Identification with the non-self is the dukkha, and the worry is the papa. Liberation is in Saranagati. Accept things as the will of Ishvara. Surrender and be free. Now and here. Moksha, liberation, is given, not created by action. You realize it here, now, and in yourself. It does not need the support of action. If you do not pursue this truth, you will pursue dharma, artha, or some kama, For the essential truth, you will have to go beyond the opposites of punya papa, dharma adharma, swarga naraka, the janma mrityu, and then search for the truth. Search for the truth in the imperishable, the result that underlies in all nama rupa. You also agree that karma is dukkhatmakam. Because of avidya, there is kama, desire. Because of kama, there is karma, the action. Action will not help in removing the avidya, as there is no opposition. Just like darkness is unable to remove darkness, that is the reason only jnana, knowledge, only is the nishreyasa sadhanam, the means for moksha. Support from karma and coexistence with karma is contradictory.
Respected Acharya Ji, I have to submit that you are throwing all kinds of pairs of opposites, dharma, adharma, punya, papa, swarga, naraka, janma, mrityu, and whatnot, and trying to confuse us. But I have a simple and struggle-free solution. I will request you to listen carefully and tell us what's wrong. Yes. I challenge you. Let's start with this fact. Liberation is eternal. It need not be created by knowledge or action. We agree. By doing nitya karmas, there will be no pratyavaya dosha. As a result, not doing any prohibited action, you call it nishiddha karma, pratishiddha, whatever, no papa is gained. And finally, from relinquishing actions meant for desired results, kamya karmas, there will be no possibility of being born again. When you give up desires, they will have no foothold and will get naturally neutralized. Then the karma account becomes zero. Therefore, after the results of actions that produce this body get exhausted by experiencing them, there is no other cause to produce a new body when the present body fails. Simple, right? Therefore, Atma remains in its own Sarupa.
Very good.
This is moksha without struggle. Do you all agree?
Yes.
Our friends have conveniently forgotten something, namely sanchita karma. My dear Panditji, it is impossible for the karma account to become zero, because there is an infinite reservoir of karmas done in beginningless births. One portion of this karma fructifies to become prarabdha karma, while the rest remains as sanchita. This sanchita karma, accumulated over an infinite number of births, consists of punya and papa, which will take you to svarga or naraka or rebirth in this world. Therefore, one cannot exhaust all karma and thereby obtain moksha.
Acharya ji, it is true that actions done in many past lives give results such as heaven, hell, etc. But if these actions have not started giving results, they will remain as sanchita karma. Then there is no way of experiencing them. They won't get exhausted. That being so, how is liberation possible? Is that not illogical?
Panditaji, as you are well aware, that attachment, aversion, and delusion are the causes of good and bad action that bring about another birth. Without eradicating these negative emotions, eradication of punya and papa is impossible, and they cannot be eliminated without knowledge. Therefore, the argument that performance of nitya karma exhausts the sanchita is not tenable.
Honorable Pandita, Shvetashvatara Upanishad states that knowing him alone, one goes beyond death. There is no other way to go. It means that for liberation, there is no other path but knowledge. The Upanishad also states, just like it is impossible to roll up the sky like you would do a leather, so also to liberation for an unenlightened person is not possible.
On the other hand, nitya karma is a struggle and agony. One has to wake up early, the fire from the Agnihotra creates smoke and dust, causing tears, they can reasonably be experiencing of actions done in the past lives, which have not commenced bearing their results. Actions that have begun to bear fruit get exhausted merely by experiencing them. So liberation is attained provided no new actions are performed.
Bhagavati, there may be problems with that statement. Firstly, you state that the actions done in past lives have not yet commenced bearing their results, and then you say that they get exhausted by experiencing them. How can something that has not yet commenced bearing its result be experienced at all, let alone get exhausted through experience? That is an internal contradiction. Also, any palam that fructifies will do so under the appropriate conditions in any case. There is no need for one to go after it, either on one's own initiative or by Vedic mandate. And no one engages in an action simply in order to experience pain. So there are certainly no grounds for the Shruti to mandate such an action. Thus, engaging in nitya karma when the only result is suffering makes no sense. There must be another reason, and that is a desire for a result, namely sukham, happiness, either here or in the hereafter. Otherwise, such action is untenable. Moreover, by asserting that the karma itself is an exhaustion of papa, and thus involves the palam in some way, is unacceptable, as this destroys any distinction between cause and effect. Something cannot be both action and result simultaneously. In any case, it is unreasonable to assert that the pain one suffers from the effort involved in performing the nitya karmas is the result of many sinful acts done in past lives. The papa karma accrued through many different actions in past lives must fructify in an appropriate variety of different painful experiences, not just the one type of pain that is involved in performing the nitya karmas.
No, listen to the Acharya. Don't you think he sounds outrageous? Ask it. Don't you think he's outrageous? Ask him. Ask him how else can one atone for the papa karma committed in the earlier lives. You have to pay for it one way or the other, right?
Please sit down. Be calm.
Panditji, it is unfortunate that you should think so. Your opinion is that pain resulting from the effort is undertaking nitya karmas is the result of actions which has not begun bearing the fruit. Tell me, Acharya ji, if pain be the result of nitya karmas enjoined by the Vedas, then isn't that pain from the very effort in performing the nitya karmas? Take for example body exercise. The pain arising from it is the result of the exercise itself and not because of any past karmas or past papas. Similarly, the pain resulting from performing nitya karmas is the consequence of that performance itself. To imagine that it is a result of something else is illogical.
Let me further elaborate what esteemed Mahatmas have just said. Nitya karmas are mandated to the one who is alive, not the dead one. It is only for the alive. It is just like, as a citizen, you are mandated to perform jury duty to maintain law and order in the country. You also seem to insist that pain of doing nitya karma is because of the papa of the past. What about the pain of doing kamya karmas? You should know that the pain of doing Agnihotra is the same whether that karma is performed as nitya, which is duty, or kamya, to fulfill a result. Therefore, the same karma, with and without desire, giving different outcomes is quite irrational. I want to further emphasize, it is contradictory to say that the fruit of Agnihotra performed as a nitya karma is elimination of past papa, whereas the fruit of the same Agnihotra performed as a kamya karma is heaven. This is because there is no difference in performance of nitya, and kamya accept the desire involved in the latter.
Also, you say on one hand that nitya karmas have no result at all, and in the same breath you say that their result is the exhaustion of past wrongdoing. As already shown, that thesis is untenable. So we can easily see that nitya karmas do give some result other than exhausting past karma. How can you say that they do not have a result? Nitya karmas have heaven as a result. Or, if the results are offered to Ishvara, they give antahkarana shuddhi by neutralizing the desires and aversions in the mind. A mind purified in this way is open to gaining steadfast knowledge, and therefore the highest good, which is moksha.
The Mimamsakas didn't like that, not one bit. But then, the power of this argument is that by fixing yourself firmly in the karma and phala cycle, you can never come out of it. The fundamental and critical mistake is seeing result in action. Thus, it has been established that steadfastness to knowledge alone leads one to final liberation, and action is meant for the worldly. Through the yoga of knowledge for the men of realization, and through the yoga of action for the yogis. Let us see what the Mimamsakas do now.
Respected Acharyas, let us shift gears and talk about ignorance. You say ignorance is the cause of actions. Can you prove that all actions are due to ignorance? Do you have anything significant to tell us regarding this? People with the kind of knowledge you refer to, don't they have any kind of ignorance whatsoever?
We will try. Acharyaji, we surely will try. It is like this. Although nitya karmas are known from the scriptures, still they are meant only for the ignorant. For instance, we all know that killing is a papa karma, and the scriptures prohibit it vehemently. Nevertheless, a person who is governed by passion and ignorance commits such a vile action. Impulsion to any action is otherwise not possible. It is the same with regard to nitya, naimittika, and kamya actions.
Objection. We don't believe that. We do not agree with that. How can you say nitya karma is for the ignorant? Certain karmas may be preceded by ignorance, but not those enjoined by the Veda. For example, if you are running for your life from a snake, which is not there, that activity can be said to be out of ignorance. You can say the same for deliberate actions based on empirical knowledge. The performance of any karma enjoined by the Veda presupposes knowledge of that karma gained from the Veda. Without that knowledge, karmas like Agnihotra, etc., are in no way possible.
With all due respect, Pandita, I have to say no. People have desires and fears due to ignorance, and thus there is a need for mandates such as nitya karmas, nishiddha karmas, and so on. Karma is based upon the notion of doing something, and doing by its nature is movement, namely by the body-mind. Therefore, the idea I do implies identification with the body and the mind, since the self does not move. The actionless self is not the agent of the movements of the body, so imposing doership on the self is clearly due to ignorance.
But Bhagavan, the notion of egoism, like I do, I'm so and so, with regard to the body, occurs in a figurative and secondary sense. It is not literal. I know that the self is different from body, and that it is the body which acts, but still I say I do. Yes. The idea of body being I is in a secondary sense. It is not false notion due to identification with the body. The secondary meaning is not ignorance.
That is incorrect. Because then the effect of the notion of egoism will also become figurative or secondary.
How can that be, Acharya-ji? The notion of I with regard to the aggregate of one's own body, etc., does occur in a figurative or secondary sense. This is certainly not a false notion. When a stump is taken to be a man, that is, when the distinction between them is not evident due to darkness, then it can be said that it is a false notion. But here it is not an error either, as in mistaking rope for a snake. It is merely secondary.
Panditaji, I understand your confusion. As you realize, an expression in the secondary sense cannot lead to an effect in the real sense. For example, when I say Devadatta is a lion, or I can say the boy is a fire, it really implies that Devadatta is cruel like a lion, and the boy's complexion is like fire, shining complexion. These expressions in the secondary sense are meant only for describing the qualities or traits of Devadatta and the boy. No action of a lion or fire is accomplished because of the use of secondary notion or ideas. Thus, with regard to these secondary notions, one clearly understands this Devadatta cannot be a lion, this boy cannot be a fire. Similarly, if an action performed by the body is figuratively expressed as performed by the self, then you cannot say it is actually performed by the self, which is the real subject of the notion of I. Action done by the figurative lion, like Devadatta, cannot be considered to have been performed by a real lion.
There you go again. Acharya-ji, is it not true that the self uses the body, mind, and senses to perform various actions? The body, mind, and senses, being inert, cannot themselves perform actions. So, isn't it correct to say that the self, through its own memory, desire, and effort, makes the action possible?
That is not so, Panditji. The idea that the memory, desires, and effort somehow belong to the self is a false notion. Memory, desire, effort, and so on are the result of experiencing desirable and undesirable results of actions done in the past. They are caused by a false notion, namely identification with the mental states experienced as a result of action, and consequently identification with the entire body-mind-sense complex. This false notion has been coming down birth after birth. From this we understand that it is not possible to establish a beginning for past and future experience of samsara, and that it is a product of ignorance. And since identification of the self with the body ends when this false notion ends, the identification is a creation of that false notion caused by ignorance, and is not simply being used in a secondary meaning. This also proves that steadfastness in knowledge alone can bring about an end to samsara.
With all due respect, Acharya-ji, this is not possible. How am I going to give up my identification with the body when I have knowledge of the self? Knowledge is one thing, and identification of the body is totally another. I may have knowledge, but still I have identification with the body. Otherwise, how can I live in this world with this body and mind and sense?
That's a very good question. You may, out of lack of discrimination, entertain the idea of I with regard to body complex, but it is not so when you perceive them as distinct. No real action like eating, etc., can be accomplished through something considered as the self in the secondary sense. As in the earlier example, the action of a real lion cannot be accomplished by some secondary notion or idea of a lion.
Vipravard, as my learned colleague stated earlier, the self does accomplish its purposes with the help of the body and sense organs. They are figuratively considered to be the self. That being so, what does one gain by seeing them as distinct?
Panditaji, we have been saying superimposing the body complex upon the self is ignorance. Just give it, just drop it, lock, stock, and barrel. They bring along a gamut of unpleasant situations in life. In a figurative or secondary sense, the body, the organs are not the self. It is ignorance and ignorance alone that is responsible for the false idea. What is body? Tell me, what is body? Show me how are you the body? Please listen carefully to what we are all saying here.
Acharya ji, you are repeating the same thing over and over and over again. Ignorance, false notion. Ignorance, false notion. Please state your point categorically. Besides, you've been dismissing all that we say. We are here for a discussion, not just to hear your views.
Bhagavati, Pandita, Amma, please, be patient with us. What will Swamiji and our friends think? Come, take your seat and let us talk. My Acharya friend is young and energetic. It is like this. The body and so forth is indeed regarded as the self due to a false notion. Because of this non-discrimination, people say, I am tall, I am sick, and so on. When one identifies with the body-mind complex, and all of life is based on that foundation, then one succumbs to the machinations of the mind. This is what our esteemed Acharya calls shadow life.
Acharya ji, so tell us, what is body? Is it not an entity with a status and sanctity of its own? You speak of it as though it is an assembly. In your opinion, it's only a bag of bones. We live with this body all our lives. How can it be totally dismissed as almost non-existent?
The body is nothing but a stream of sensations integrated to form an idea of a body. There can be no body without perception, which is a mental state, and that too fleeting. Pandita, the saving grace is that you give existence to the body, therefore you can also negate it. It is the non-self.
Furthermore, let me add to that one. Please remember that this identification with the self exists only as long as the false notion is there. But a discriminating person clearly understands that he is different from the aggregate of body, etc. Therefore, he has no egoism with regard to the body. Hope we have been able to clear your doubt, Acharya ji.
Acharya ji, we both hold the Vedas in highest regard. Our knowledge and convictions are from the Veda. That being so, on the authority of the Vedas, should we not accept the body-mind complex in the use of the secondary sense also? What problem do you see in that regard?
Panditji, I appreciate your thoughts. The validity of the Vedas holds good only with regard to unseen results, matters concerning relation between ends and means, as in Agnihotra, etc., matters that are not known through other valid means of knowledge, such as direct perception. The Vedas do not address objects of direct perception because their purpose is to reveal what is beyond perception. Therefore, it is not possible to imagine that the idea of the self identifying with the body-mind complex, which arises from a false notion, is figurative. Even if 100 Vedic texts were to assert that fire is cold or non-luminous, you would have to assume that the intended meaning of the text is different, for otherwise it's impossible to maintain the validity of the Vedas. But you cannot assume its meaning in a way that might contradict other valid means of knowledge or contradict the Veda's own statement.
Acharya ji, According to your contention, an ignorant man alone can be an agent of an action. Therefore, when he gains knowledge of the self, he will cease to be ignorant. Consequently, the Vedas also becomes invalid for him. Is that what you are trying to say?
Pandita ji, I again find that we have been misunderstood. That is not exactly what we are saying. Though the Vedic injunctions about rituals, etc., are not applicable to an enlightened person, still they have experiential validity before enlightenment. The Vedas, on the other hand, have a real validity with regard to the knowledge of Brahman.
In that case, is it not possible that the Vedic texts enjoining knowledge of Brahman also may become as invalid as the texts enjoining various karmas?
Not so, Bhagavan, not so. There cannot possibly be any notion which can remove the knowledge of Brahman. The idea of egoism with regard to the body, etc., can be removed after hearing the Vedic injunction regarding the knowledge of Brahman. Just as the knowledge that fire is hot, luminous, is irremovable, so too the realization of the self in the self can never be removed in any way or by anything whatsoever.
And besides, the Vedic texts enjoining rights and duties are not invalid. They are meant to negate previous movements of the mind in a certain direction and create new tendencies in the other direction. In other words, to turn the self inwards and seek fulfillment in the indwelling self by eliminating the existing tendencies to look outward to the external world for fulfillment and freedom. In this way, they do serve a purpose. Just as the boat can take one across the river, but then one leaves it when one reaches the other side, so too a means, though it may be unreal in itself, it may still be useful to take the seeker step by step towards the goal.
Well, the Mimamsakas are very silent. Swamiji exhorts us over and over again, quote, "Reverse the course of your lives by looking inwards. Build your religious and spiritual lives on the bedrock of truth. Give up attachment to the dazzling world which doesn't have any real substance, and take your abode in the self, which is your home. This is the homecoming." Now, let us see what the Mimamsakas have to say.
Let me try something different.
Yeah, I think so.
Bhagavan, let's talk about the actions performed by the self. You say being akarta, it does not perform any actions. Now, let us say, for instance, in a battle, a king is not involved directly. Yet, we say he is fighting in the battlefield with the soldiers and that he is victorious or defeated. By merely being the commander of the army, the king orders various tactics and the final results accrues to him alone. Why can't the same thing be ascribed to the self?
Esteemed Pandit ji, I know you are a great logician, but you seem to be suggesting that the self, though inactive by itself, acts through the body complex by its mere proximity. That in itself constitutes doership of the self. Am I right? I am afraid that is not plausible, since it will amount to an inactive entity becoming an agent of action.
But surely, doership can be of various types.
Not so, Acharya ji. With reference to the kings and soldiers, they have doership even in the primary sense. As for the king, he fights even though his personal engagement, and he has doership in the primary sense by virtue of making his warriors fight also. Therefore, the doership attributed to an inactive entity is secondary and not literal.
Well, Bhagavan, looks like a slight problem here. You are conveniently forgetting what happens to the results of actions that you call figurative. Kindly explain.
Yes, since the doership is figurative, it is logical that the result of the action will also be figurative, isn't it? The assertion that owing to the activities of the body, etc., the actionless self becomes a doer and experiencer is certainly wrong. But everything becomes possible due to error. This is just as it happens in dream or in a magic show.
Acharya ji, you are bringing in something totally out of context in talking about dream and magic. Is it to confuse us more?
Yep.
No wonder they call you folk Mayavadis.
Yep.
Panditaji, it is not our intention to confuse you or to put a spell upon you. Please hear us out. In the deep sleep, the current of the mistaken idea of self-identity with the body complex ceases. Consequently, there is absorption in Brahman. In this state, doership, enjoyership are not perceived. Therefore, the delusion of the samsara is surely due to false knowledge. Not being the reality, the false knowledge comes to an end, absolutely, as a result of enlightenment. Once the seeker reaches this point, there is no returning back to the state of ignorance. He has realized his oneness with Brahman.
Esteemed Panditaji and Panditjis, I hope we have been able to clear all your doubts or most of your doubts. Now let me summarize by saying that you derive a sense of self from an action and say, I am Karta. Notions such as this and I am Father, etc., are in fact inherited thought patterns. The doership abides in the body-mind only. When you give up the doership from karma, which is merely a movement, the outcome will go to Ishvara and egoism will permanently disappear. Sri Krishna says, abandoning all karmas, take refuge in me. I will release you from all papa. Do not grieve. Please note that the me here is the reality absolute, the Atma, that is Brahman.
Honorable Acharyajis, we hope your delusions and misconceptions are gone. Let us offer our prayerful pranams to the Swamijis and take leave of our friends.
Oh, not so fast, sir. We're not quite finished. Kindly allow us to prove a point. That our point. It's not really proper to cut us short and interrupt while the Samvada is still on.
Yes, you must let us finish. So far, you took the upper hand, negating our views as not tenable, unreasonable, and so on. You've not come up with anything clear-cut, can you?
Acharyaji, please let me handle this. Most knowledgeable Advaita Acharyajis, all your statements so far have been vague. You have not been able to establish anything tangible. What exactly is this knowledge that leads to liberation? You didn't tell us.
Yes.
How does it work?
Liberation from what? Tell us without ambiguity.
Yes.
Yeah.
How? What?
Tell us.
Tell us. Swamiji, please tell them not to stop the discussion.
Let's have
Friends,
some clear answers.
Please ask the Advaitins to explain.
Please, beloved Panditjis and friends, Shantihi. We will surely meet again for another lively Samvada, somewhere, sometime. But before we finish, we would like you to hear a few words from our own Acharyaji, some food for thought.
Yes, here is some food for your thought. We are thankful to our teacher for these poignant statements. Negative understanding is the highest understanding. अज्ञान से जो होता है वो असल में नहीं होता है. Allow natural things to happen naturally. Just be.
And now let us part as friends and say Om Tat Sat. ॐ सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यः मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम्
Have you witnessed a wonderful show, wasn't it? And I'm sure that you're anxious to meet each one of them individually and find out where they are from. Acharya Arunji. Arunji is from Varanasi. Acharya Padmanabhanji. Now, isn't he a sight? Padmanabhanji is from Delhi. Acharya Sambashiva. Acharya ji is from Andhra Pradesh. Acharya Terry. Acharya Terry is from Rishikesh. Pandita Chanchal. Pandita is from Kerala. And Pandita Pramila. Pramila ji is from the mountain regions of Karnataka state, Kodagu. Acharya Srinivasan. Acharya ji is from the heart of Orthodox Tamil Nadu. Pandita Usha. Pandita ji also is from Tamil Nadu. And Acharya ji Kalpesh. Acharya ji is from Sringeri. Don't they make a nice, fine group? And now, Sri Swamiji, we request you to please give the Anugraha Bhashanam and bless us.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Shri Ganeshaya Namaha, Atmaswarupa Bandhagana. I am pleased, extremely pleased to see this performance. In fact, this whole idea has come from Swamini Sri Vidyanandaji. It is her imagination and her conception. Generally, other than taking a class and then going to my room and sit and read and write, other than that I don't do anything else. And ideas also don't come to me. That kind of pravrutti, what kind of proactivity, proactive nature, I just don't have. I remain like that, just sit in the room, read and write, or else just take some rest and come here and take the class. I don't come out with any ideas. But if people come with ideas, then I love that. For example, when I have done Chandogya, 6th chapter, that section is also amenable for such a play. So then also the idea came from Swamini Sri Vidyanandaji, and that remained a very happy memory. Not only here, the CD I got it in India, and so there people also saw that, whosoever knew English, they saw that. I always wished this kind of a Samvada can be done in some of the centers of excellence like Shringeri, Kanchi Kamakoti Pitha, etc., where many scholars are there. Such a Samvada, they will be able to do it in Sanskrit itself. But somehow, they are like me, they don't seem to have that kind of a proactive approach. Whereas, because of Srimati Swamini Sri Vidyanandaji's idea, this has taken shape. And then when I look back, the first draft that was prepared from Gambhiranandaji's translation, it was very disheartening. When you read that, it was typed nicely. When you read it, it just doesn't make much sense. And the way you all enjoyed this while it is being presented, with that draft you would not have been able to enjoy that. Because the language is very terse, very highly Victorian English, and no explanations were given. Shankara Bhashya was translated verbatim in that. That was the first draft. By the time the first draft was prepared and I saw it, some of our friends, Dr. Arun and others, they have seen it. They have said, no, with this draft it is not going to happen. Then I suggested, just don't be disheartened like that. We know that the language is very inconvenient for presenting as well as for people to understand. The problem is obvious, but just wait, let the classes begin. And while classes are going on, you take notes, copious notes you take. And instead of one person taking all the notes of all characters, all panditas, maybe they can take their individual pieces notes so that they can write their own script. Maybe it can be done like that. Or maybe notes can be taken class after class. So that is how it happened. Swaminiji has taken notes class after class. I suppose the others also have taken notes. And then they have poured through that notes and then condensed it and brought the essence there, while keeping the Shankara Bhashya in mind. So, therefore, instead of presenting a word-to-word translation, verbatim translation, they have presented, while maintaining the text of Shankara faithfully, they have presented an explanatory part of that message. That's why it came so well, and we could all enjoy. Of course, it goes without saying that those students who have studied the classes, all these classes for the last 1.5 weeks, they would have obviously enjoyed more than newcomers. But then it is very well presented, and the Mimamsakas, they have done a very great job, and of course Advaita Acharyas, the three of them have done a great job. I really know words to extol their effort, their love for the program, and with what an enthusiasm and love and effort they have done it, and how much effort, how many hours of effort they have put into it. That is really very heartening to see that. Ours is an institute of Vedanta, Yoga and Sanskrit. That is the name which we see at the gate, main gate. And that is how our headline, our letterhead also shows as Institute of Vedanta, Sanskrit and Yoga. And so, whatever we present must be befitting that name. So whatever is presented on this dais, whether it is children's presentation, it could be even a simple recitation of verses from here and there, or it could be a skit here and there presented by the children or young boys and girls, or even some of the skits are presented by elders like we had a skit here by elders presented in the 2-week course. So all these things must be having a certain standard that fits into the description. Institute of Vedanta, Sanskrit and Yoga. That is not a simple name, it's a very powerful name. And not only the teaching must be up to that level, but also even the skits that we present must have that standard and that high level. For that we have to strive. I am very happy to see that this kind of a presentation, it should attract the attention of many more students of Vedanta. I am sure the video that is being prepared, it will go rounds and people will be watching it again and again. And I am very glad to say that almost entirely the discussion by Shankara has been presented here. Not much is left out. Almost entirely it has come. So it was a wonderful, very great effort. God bless all of them. I am inspired by what they have presented. And in some places, I could see that they improved upon the translation also. For example, Agnihi, Shitaha, Aprakashaha, that is what Shankara says. I was saying it as fire, cold and opaque. But then I have noticed that they have changed it as fire is cold and non-luminous. That is a better translation. Opaque is not the right word. So like that they improved upon what is being said in the classes also. I really welcome it. This is a marvelous effort, and I hope to see many more such things being happening here under the able guidance of Swamini Sri Vidyanandaji and other friends. And of course many other people have contributed their might to that. So that kind of a Vandana Samarpanam or Thanksgiving, our general manager will do it. So one more time, God bless all of you. You have done a very great job. And also the audience is very sahurdaya. They have that love for the thing and they have made all this possible. I am very happy about the whole thing. Harihi Om Tat Sat.
Thank you, Swamiji, for your guidance, appreciation, kind words for the whole show. Very good to see all of them with their differences, with the arguments. They are still on the one platform. Thank you very much. So there is some improvement. Okay. Swamini would not like it, but I would like to do that. All of you know that when we give some project or work to Swamiji or Swamini, it will be definitely meticulous, flawless, and deserve to be appreciated all the way. Give her a big round of applause. Thank you. And one big round of applause for our great actors. They hit the best note when they delivered this. And now we would like to thank quite a few volunteers who helped Swamini to make this show a big success. To begin with, Mr. Sahadev for audio. Where is Sahadev? And Mr. Mangesh for video. Tulasi, Vidya, Raghu, Chandrasekhar, Surya for stage and hall setup. Please stand up. Once again, it's Tulasi, Vidya, Raghu, Chandrasekhar, Surya and Jai. Stage and hall setup. Girija, Radha, Chaya for costumes. Okay. Yes, and two more names I forgot to tell. Bala and Nivedita. They are to be included. And Ganeshan. And Revati also should be included in the group. Give them a big round of applause. Kiran, Anjana, and Anu for providing costumes. Give them a big round of applause for all of them. So very good, as Swamiji suggested, such show will take place more and more so that the awareness is created. So I'm sure it's going to happen. And once again, thank everyone. And special thanks to Swamini for putting her all mind and time and whatnot to make this a big success. Thank you and good night.